Dr. Lyra Kane stood before the observation screen, her breath forming small clouds of condensation against the reinforced glass. Below her, in the containment biosphere, 3 human children played among creatures that had evolved to be apex predators on 7 different worlds. The Galactic Council had called it madness. The Ethics Committee had called it barbarism. Lyra called it necessary. Day 47, she spoke into her recorder, her voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. The cubs continue to defy every xenobiological model we possess. On the screen, Tavi, the smallest of the 3 children at barely 6 years old, was riding on the back of a Kreshtar, a creature whose species had single-handedly depopulated 2 colony worlds before humanity had found a way to contain them. Its obsidian scales gleamed under the artificial sunlight, and its 4 rows of serrated teeth could shear through reinforced steel. Right now, those teeth were carefully holding a rubber ball as the child on its back squealed with delight. The experiment had begun as a desperate measure. Humanity had been expanding through the stars for 2 centuries, encountering predator species that saw humans as prey. Diplomatic solutions failed. Military options proved too costly. Then Lyra had proposed something the galaxy had never seen. What if human children, with their underdeveloped threat responses and natural curiosity, could teach these predators a different way? The Council had reluctantly agreed, but only after exhaustive simulations. They selected 3 orphans who had volunteered, children who had lost everything to predator attacks and wanted to ensure no one else would suffer the same fate. Tavi had been the first to volunteer, her dark eyes burning with a determination that seemed impossible in someone so young. The Kreshtar drops the ball. Lyra continued her narration. Tavi slides off its back and, yes, she's picking it up. The creature could snap her in half, but instead it's lowering its head, waiting. Tavi threw the ball with all her might. It sailed across the biosphere in the low gravity, and the Kreshtar bounded after it with movements that looked almost playful. Behind them, another child was teaching a pack of Vren, wolf-like creatures with psychic abilities, how to play hide-and-seek. The predators were using their telepathic senses to locate the hiding child, their tails wagging when they succeeded. Fascinating, murmured Dr. Yelshaw, a Centaurian observer who had been monitoring the experiment. His multiple eyes blinked in sequence. The human cubs are engaging the predator's hunting instincts, but redirecting them toward cooperative play. We've never seen anything like this. Lyra nodded, her eyes never leaving Tavi. The girl had been the breakthrough. On day 3, when a Kreshtar had approached her with clear predatory intent, Tavi hadn't screamed or run. She had pulled out a small stone and skipped it across the containment pool. The Kreshtar had paused, confused. Then it had picked up the stone in its massive jaws and brought it back to her. That single moment had changed everything. The key, Lyra said softly, is that human children don't see monsters. They see potential friends. Their brains haven't yet developed the complex threat assessment that tells adults to fear. Instead, they possess something the galaxy lacks, the ability to approach the unknown with curiosity rather than aggression. Over the weeks, the changes had been remarkable. The Kreshtar, once kept in isolation because they attacked anything that moved, now moved in coordinated groups, playing elaborate games that Tavi had taught them. The Vren had stopped howling their haunting hunting calls and instead had learned to mimic human laughter, a sound that was both eerie and beautiful, but it was the Scarix that proved the most astounding transformation. These creatures were pure predatory efficiency, silicon-based life forms that could phase through solid matter, and had been responsible for the loss of 3 entire planets. They couldn't be contained, couldn't be reasoned with, couldn't be stopped until Tavi had offered one a crayon. Now on the observation screen, Lyra watched as the same Scarix that had killed thousands carefully used its phase-shifting abilities to create intricate patterns in the sand, while Tavi clapped and offered suggestions. The creature's crystalline form refracted light into rainbows as it worked, creating art instead of death. "Dr. Kane," came a voice from the communication panel. It was Admiral Thrace, military liaison to the project. "The Council wants to know if you're ready to proceed to Phase 2. Lyra took a deep breath. Phase 2 meant introducing adult humans to the rehabilitated predators. It meant testing whether these bonds could hold in the presence of humans who did carry threat responses, who did see monsters. "Affirmative," she said. "But I want to go in first, alone." "That's not protocol." Protocol didn't account for this, Lyra interrupted, gesturing at the screen where Tavi was now lying on the grass, surrounded by creatures that should have devoured her, all of them sleeping peacefully in a pile. Nothing about this follows protocol. 20 minutes later, Lyra stood at the airlock, feeling the weight of 2 centuries of human-predator conflict on her shoulders. The door hissed open and she stepped into the biosphere. Immediately, every predator's head snapped toward her. She felt the familiar ice-cold fear response, the ancient mammalian brain screaming at her to run, but she held still, watching. Tavi sat up from the pile of sleeping creatures and smiled. "Dr. Kane! Come meet my friends." The Kreshtar rose to its full height, easily 3 times Lyra's size. Its nostrils flared, testing her scent. She could see herself reflected in its obsidian eyes. Small, vulnerable prey. Then Tavi walked over to the creature and patted its leg. "This is Dr. Kane. She's nice. She brought us here so we could teach you how to be friends." The Kreshtar lowered its massive head. Slowly, carefully, it nudged Lyra with its snout, the same gesture she had seen Tavi receive dozens of times. Not aggressive, not predatory, curious. Lyra reached out with a trembling hand and touched the creature's scales. They were warm, almost hot. The Kreshtar made a sound deep in its chest, not a growl, but something softer. "Almost like a purr, you see?" Tavi said, her voice filled with the simple wisdom of childhood. They just needed someone to show them how to play. As Lyra stood among the galaxy's most feared predators, feeling the weight of her fear lifting, she realized that humanity's greatest weapon had never been its technology or its military might. It was something far more powerful, something the galaxy had lost long ago. The ability to see potential friends in places where others saw only enemies, and the courage to extend a hand in friendship even when it might be bitten. The human cubs hadn't just befriended the predators. They had taught them and humanity what it meant to choose connection over conflict, and in doing so, they had changed the galaxy forever.